Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. It may be the case that we'll see even more turbulence in the short term before we finally move to the upside price-wise, market-wide, certainly including XRP. But I'll just tell you this key point. As far as the chart analysts I follow anyway, none of them have changed their conviction. They're not flipping bearish, even if in the short term some of them do think we could see some price movements to the downside. In fact, though, they all believe you're going to be taking profit, specifically with XRP, because you will be enticed to do so. Ultimately, yes, number go up, nothing changes. And I'm going to share with you some of the latest examples of such optimism in this very latest Moon Lambo hot jam. So even if the price is lower than where it is now by the time you're watching this, which is possible, nothing is broken. That's an overwhelming message I keep seeing from analyst to analyst. But before going further, I do want to be clear, I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. As I record this video, it is 7:07 p.m. Central Time, Sunday, March 30th, 2025. XRP is $2.13, Bitcoin at $82,401. And if I flash back and forth between the 24-hour XRP chart and Bitcoin chart, you can see that all the bigger movements over the last 24 hours, if you can even call them bigger, because we mostly move them sideways, they happen at the same time on both these. So I just want to be very clear here. Any price action you're seeing for XRP, even if you're like hyper-focused on XRP because that's the coin you care about most, that's fine. Just be aware that the downward action we're seeing, it's not because there's something fundamentally changed about XRP. It's the market moving in tandem, which always happens, which I hope brings some peace of mind there. Here's a post from chart analyst TechDev. He shared this with his 517,000 followers on X. You've got last market cycle on the right, the current market cycle on the left, and he's noting that these things are very samey. And so he wrote, oh, by the way, this is the crypto total market cap, both these charts, excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum. So XRP on down the list, all those altcoins. So he says, altcoins already gave you the blueprint. They've drawn it again, this time with more patience required. And so he has his own indicator at the bottom, alt season oscillator. So you can see once we hit this inflection point on the right for 2021, it took off, and look at what happened to the chart. Blazed to the upside, and he's noting that it just flipped again very recently. We just haven't seen the rip with that final euphoric blow off top, but that indicator that he set up, it has hit. And you can see the similarities as he's pointing out from last cycle to this cycle. Now, as he stated though in his post, this time more patience required. Okay, this is exactly why I so frequently say, I don't care how great a chart analyst is. Literally none of them can consistently predict time. Even if they're right about a chart formation, they cannot consistently predict time because a chart formation, even if they nail it, then they're like, yep, that is the correct formation. It can go faster than it previously has, or slower, or for a little bit of time it can go a little faster and then a little bit slower. You can't know for sure, which is why the closest you can get to predicting time for notable moves like this is just looking at what has happened in the past and say, like, if history were to unfold the same, this is what it would look like. But to actually say, hey, I predict it's going to be on by so-and-so date, nobody can consistently do that. So I've never found a single analyst that can, not one. But still, I do think it's kind of useful to be like, okay, if history looks the same, I think that's fair to make a comment like that. But the reason I even say that is to point out, even if it's taking a little bit longer right now, nothing's weird, nothing's broken. This is all normal. We've seen this before. The market's just testing you. That's what it does. And in the meantime, we have fools calling for XRP to break to the downside. I'm not going to belabor this point. I've highlighted it in recent videos, but one of the most famous analysts in all of crypto, Peter Brandt, with like over 780,000 followers on X now, he's saying that there's a good chance XRP is going to drop to $1.07. And that's about the lowest that I see here. And he's been so disastrously wrong about XRP, even though he's a good chart analyst, because his strong negative bias against XRP, it seeps into his analysis. He does suffer from the affliction known as XRP derangement syndrome. Even so, it's possible that you could see XRP go lower. I'm just saying for that type of price action, where you're talking anywhere around $1, the only people I find that are calling for something like that are people that clearly suffer from XRP derangement syndrome. I'll give you one more example here. This is an analyst I'm not particularly familiar with, but 23,100 followers. He's named Exit Pump, and he simply wrote here, XRP, just a matter of time before this shitcoin is below $1 again. I can only find this from people like this guy that irrationally hate XRP and have shown a history of that. In fact, on December 2nd of 2024, when XRP hit a local high of $2.90, he wrote, I'm in the room with XRP whales and we are going to dump on XRP army tonight. Rug pull is coming. And of course, as you know, a month later, we hit a new all-time high. And now he's just saying it's just going to go down. So this is not going to age well. Even if XRP does go lower first, there are analysts who are very pro XRP who acknowledge, yeah, we could go lower first. There are some. But even those ones say that doesn't break the structure and we're still going to see moves to the upside. Here's a post from chart analyst Dom, recognizing that we are in a lower range now, unfortunately. He says, XRP update. And by the way, this is just from, let's see, 6:32 p.m., so not long ago, about 40 minutes ago. And he says a major $2.20 level has flipped to resistance, which means this structure is bearish until $2.20 flips back to support. Price perfectly bounced off election VWAP yesterday as it starts to act the same as Bitcoin's did. Larger buy walls remain between $1.80 and $2, which is technically the main support zone that has given 6 bounces over the last 3 months. Keep eyes on Bitcoin and NASDAQ 100 as the correlation remains strong. I see the potential of the first week of April printing a multi-week low across markets, so that means bulls need to do all they can to continue to hold that bottom range. Okay, so not surprising. You can switch from range to range. That does happen. Sometimes support breaks, sometimes resistance breaks, and then you're just in a new realm effectively. But as he notes here, it's moving with Bitcoin and the NASDAQ 100. And that makes sense that the NASDAQ 100 would continue to show that strong correlation because that's an index of tech-heavy stocks, which get treated even more similarly to the crypto asset class than just broadly speaking the S&P 500. It makes sense because you're dropping anything that's viewed as technology in the same bucket effectively. So it's not surprising. All this to say, nothing is weird, nothing's bad, nothing's broken. These main supports, as he cited here, they're still intact. There's nothing broken here. There just isn't. I'm not seeing any analysts that I follow state that something's broken with XRP. Here's a post from chart analyst Dark Defender. He said, XRP is in the fourth wave of the monthly Elliott wave structure. We addressed this structure back in January, February. If you can figure this out, you can put yourself out of the emotional turmoil. Wave 4 will end soon. You can see that's the down one here. But anyway, so then he says, and XRP will continue to reach its targets. And so his optimism hasn't changed. He absolutely believes that we're going to get to that realm where we're going to be wanting to take profit. You can see it, $5.85. He's been talking about that target forever. And it just takes a while for this stuff to play out. But he also talked about, hitting a new all-time high forever, as did every other analyst that believes in XRP. And that happened. It just took a really long time. So we're very far through this cycle, though. We're not going to have to wait that much longer. I think it just makes sense to be optimistic here. And nobody can tell you for sure exactly what's going to happen. And there's always some chance that the bears are right and we enter a bear market. I just highly doubt that. I would say that's a very low probability. I think history is going to rhyme with itself. We're going to have a blow off top. I am not worried about this. And even if the bears were right, I don't care. I will hold until we have another cycle, even if it takes years from now. Like, whatever it takes, I'm just going to hold because that's how you win. I can't control this stuff. Nobody can. That's the attitude that one needs to have, I believe. Just high conviction and just, unbeatable patience. That's what it takes. Here's a post from Credible Crypto. And so he was noting that what he's been talking about for the last, couple weeks or so, it's still in play here. He's been warning that you could see XRP get into this lower zone closer to around, $1.60 or so. Not that it has to go quite that low, but he's had strong conviction about this. He thinks that's most probable before finally getting above to the higher end of this range, $3.21, and ultimately hitting price discovery after hitting a new all-time high and getting into double-digit price action. So he insists that we are still going to see a peak for XRP this cycle between $20 and $30. And there are a couple people here that were asking, okay, what about taking profit? For instance, this guy wrote to Credible Crypto, said, if I had to ask you at what price you'd start taking partial profits on XRP, and I'm completely freeing you from any obligation or response, what would it be? And this is yesterday. He wrote $10 plus maybe. So maybe start taking some profit around then. And so showing his conviction is still very high. He's just saying in the charts he thinks that based on his experience, there's a chance we go a little bit lower before going way higher. And that's fine. That's reasonable. Somebody else asked him a similar question here. Said, my assets are now in Bybit. My portfolio weight is made up of XRP. I've been holding it since 41 cents. Where do you think I should sell it until I reach my target? Incredible Crypto wrote, I mean, personally, I won't be selling any of my spot XRP until new all-time highs, and realistically, not until we hit double digits. And that was from today. That's at 5:15 p.m., 2 hours ago, roughly. Conviction's not changed here, folks. This is not a time to be afraid. Also had this post from chart analyst Dr. Cat, who I haven't been following for long. The reason I started following this guy is because Credible Crypto recommended him, which is enough for me because Credible Crypto is one of the most reputable analysts out there in my estimation. But this guy, chart analyst Dr. Cat, was talking about XRP, so I thought I'd share it with you. I figure, frankly, I mean, just based on reputation alone, if it's come from Credible Crypto, that's good enough for me. And so he said, XRP is still looking better than Bitcoin, and it looks best in the entire crypto market. No matter what happens with Bitcoin, I still think it may do one more leg up. However, keep in mind that for me, the ultimate invalidation of the bullish case, similar to Bitcoin, would be the 2-day trending bearish, which means trending below $1.70 to $1.90. If you think that's too low, just be prepared if it happens. Short term, $1.95 should be tested sooner or later, as you see from the weekly chart. So, take it for what it's worth. Another analyst saying, yeah, there's a good chance we're actually going to go lower in the short term. Doesn't mean it's necessarily the end of the world. And just, look, I do not think that what is most probable is the whole market breaks down. And I don't believe for a moment XRP is going to break down and not recover for a whole nother market cycle, unless that happens to Bitcoin too, and then we just don't have an alt season for the first time ever. Okay, fine. If this time is actually different, I'll accept it. I doubt it, though. I really doubt it. Here's a post from chart analyst Greg Crypto. XRP measured move target $27. So he's still counting on all of us being able to take some XRP profit this cycle. He says, which section do you not understand? Let's break it down. Formation. W formation. Number 10, currently in the breakout/retest phase. Next phase, expect 1 month of parabolic moves. Here's what to anticipate in the coming weeks. 4 weeks of life-changing opportunities for 90% of us. And folks, it does happen that quick. It could happen faster than even. I mean, the blow-off top from the 2017 cycle at the end in early 2018, that rocket move to the peak, it took about 2.5 weeks. So, you know, when he says 4 weeks, yeah, that's pretty realistic. I would not be surprised if that's roughly the window. Even if you don't catch the top, because even if you didn't catch the top of XRP for that cycle, you could have sold on the other end, the other side of the mountain, and still gotten some pretty damn good profits. I mean, it's a fool's errand to try and sell the actual top anyway. But anyway, so it says 30 days of sleepless excitement, 720 hours glued to your screens, 43,200 minutes of scrolling through updates, 2.5 million seconds of pure adrenaline rush. Your dopamine levels will soar better than cold plunges or ice baths. XRP has done this in 30 days before, and the last pump took just 35 days. This month will be coming soon, but remember to take profits. So folks, we'll get there. I think that's most probable. And nobody can tell you anything for sure. I can't, nobody can. But based on historic precedent and based on the perspective from tons of chart analysts out there who are right, by the way, about XRP hitting a new all-time high this cycle, yeah, we're sitting pretty, actually. It's just that not every second is going to be pure bliss when you're investing in crypto. In fact, most of it's the opposite. You're just moving sideways and down. Like that's most of it. But then if you have exposure, then when the market does move to the upside, you get to have the fun part too. So it's just a game of patience. It always has been, and it absolutely always will be. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.